Detective Sarah Chen stared at the lifeless body lying face down in the museum's Greek antiquities section. The victim wore an expensive suit, and next to him lay a shattered ancient mask, the prized Mask of Dimitrios that had been the museum's newest acquisition. "What do we know so far?" Sarah asked Officer Thompson, who was reviewing his notes. "Victim is Marcus Reynolds, the museum's head curator. Security found him during their morning rounds at 6 a.m. The mask case was broken, and the alarm system was turned off from inside." Sarah walked carefully around the crime scene, her trained eyes taking in every detail. Something wasn't right about this picture. The mask fragments were scattered too perfectly. "Who had access to the security codes?" she asked, crouching to examine a piece of the mask. "Only 3 people, Reynolds himself, the security chief, Janet Morris, and the assistant curator, Peter Stavros." Sarah's attention caught on the name. "Stavros? Greek origin?" "Yes. He joined the museum 6 months ago, right before they acquired the mask." Sarah pulled out her phone and quickly searched for information about the Mask of Dimitrios. The ancient artifact had been discovered in a small Greek village last year, causing excitement in the archaeological world. Its value was estimated at over $5 million. "I need to talk to both Morris and Stavros," Sarah said, "and get me the security footage from last night." The security office was small but neat. Janet Morris, a woman in her 50s with graying hair, played the footage from the previous night. "Reynolds stayed late, which wasn't unusual when we had new exhibits," Morris explained. The footage showed Reynolds working alone in his office until 11 p.m. Then the feed went dark. "The system shows it was shut down using Reynolds' code," Morris said. "Did anyone else enter or leave the building during this time?" Morris shook her head. "No one on the cameras." "But," she hesitated, "Peter Stavros knows all the blind spots. He helped update our security protocol." Sarah's instincts tingled. "Where is Stavros now?" "Called in sick this morning. First time ever." Sarah immediately dispatched officers to Stavros' apartment, but she already suspected they wouldn't find him. She turned her attention back to the crime scene, examining Reynolds' body more closely. There was something clutched in his right hand, a small piece of paper carefully folded. Using gloved hands, she gently extracted it. Written in neat handwriting were the words, "Apollo weeps at midnight." Sarah frowned. Apollo, the Greek god of many things, including truth. She looked at the broken mask again, then suddenly stood up. "I need to see Reynolds' office." The curator's office was a mess of papers and artifacts. Sarah began carefully searching through the documents on his desk. In the top drawer, she found a file labeled Dimitrios Authentication. As she read through the papers, her eyes widened. The mask wasn't what everyone thought it was. Reynolds had discovered it was a fake, an incredibly good one, but still a fake. And he had proof. "Get me everything you can find about Peter Stavros," she ordered. Within an hour, her suspicions were confirmed. Peter Stavros didn't exist, at least not before 6 months ago. Sarah gathered the museum staff and police in the main hall. "The death of Marcus Reynolds wasn't a simple robbery gone wrong," she began. "It was a carefully planned murder to cover up an even bigger crime." She held up the authentication papers. Reynolds discovered that the Mask of Dimitrios was a forgery. A magnificent one, worth maybe $10,000, but not the $5 million it was insured for. He was killed because he found out the truth. "But who would do such a thing?" Janet Morris asked. "Someone who knew enough about Greek antiquities to create a perfect forgery. Someone who could infiltrate the museum and set up the fake mask's acquisition. Someone who called in sick today, Peter Stavros, if that's even his real name. Sarah walked over to the broken mask pieces. These fragments? They're not from last night. They're from another copy. The real fake mask, if you'll pardon the expression, is probably already on its way to another buyer. Stavros needed to destroy the evidence of his forgery, and Reynolds got in the way. How can you be sure? Thompson asked. Sarah pointed to the scattered fragments. The pieces are too clean, too perfectly arranged. Real broken ceramic has sharp, irregular edges. These were broken carefully, probably days ago, and arranged here after Reynolds was killed. The note in Reynolds' hand was the final clue. Apollo weeps at midnight. Apollo, god of truth, weeping because the truth about the mask was about to come out. 2 days later, Interpol arrested a man matching Stavros' description in Athens. His real name was Nikolaos Vasilis, a known art forger who had been presumed dead after a fire in his workshop 3 years ago. In his possession, they found the real Mask of Dimitrios, or rather, his masterpiece forgery. Sarah stood in the museum, looking at the empty display case. The insurance company was in an uproar. The museum's reputation was damaged, and a good man had died trying to expose the truth. But at least justice had been served. As she turned to leave, she noticed a small symbol carved into the corner of the display case, the mark of Apollo's lyre. Reynolds had known the truth all along and left one final clue. Sarah smiled sadly. Even in death, the curator had helped solve his own murder.